Hi, I've got the giggles. It's Hillary.
I'm Davita.
And we are the two Pilates Chicks. It is season 5, episode 2.
Yep.
Oh my God. I got the giggles all of a sudden. I'll stop.
So we are talking about
I know. Oh my
teaching the body in front of you.
Yeah. So we've been hearing this a lot, teaching the body in front of you. We've seen it on social media, seen it on other things, and we've always had that for us.
It's our teaching motto.
It's our teaching motto.
Yeah. We each feel like that's the most important thing in teaching. We always say, teach the body in front of you. Teach to the body in front of you.
But what does that mean?
What does it actually mean?
What does it actually mean? Because sometimes we've been seeing things and that's what's being said, but then if you watch, then it's not really teaching to the body in front of you.
Yeah.
Because what does that mean? That means things are going to have to adjust.
Mm-hmm. And they might not be exactly what you think they were going to be at first.
Or they should, or you think they should be. Or what you want them to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's where do we start?
There's a lot there. And so, and like we were saying, we talk about this all the time, and we've mentioned it in a lot of our posts and a lot of our writings.
Yep.
And it's kind of our main thing. But so we started seeing it more and more in other people's posts and lots of different other discussions, and it's been popping up a whole lot. And I think it's a great thing.
I think it's amazing.
But what are people actually meaning by it? And so we were thinking the main thing is we don't want to be teaching to somebody and put them in a place that their body doesn't want to go.
Yeah. And that means not pushing them, not twisting them, not pulling them, not setting them up in a position that already is a fail.
Yeah.
Because they can't be there or get there, or it's not a comfortable place for them.
For whatever reason. For whatever reason, it just doesn't work for their body. Why are we putting them in a start position that's already
wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll kind of start with that, the start position. And in teacher training, I'm very specific with them. And there's always there's the setup. Mm-hmm. And then there's the, the whole mid, and there's the end. But that doesn't mean that, everything has to be exactly. It's when someone's pigeon-toed or knock-kneed or bow-legged, it's that's going to kind of adjust.
You have to adjust to it. Yeah.
You're not taking away the purpose of the exercise or what you're wanting them to get out of it, but you'll have to adjust.
Yeah. And I think, so you're saying, when you're teaching your trainees and you're giving each exercise, you're giving, okay, this is a start position. This is the setup.
Yeah.
But when you then go out in the world and teach your clients, that doesn't mean that setup is 100% exactly the same.
Right.
Each time, as it says in the textbook or the manual.
Yeah. I mean, you've got heels together, toes apart. Let's take footwork. Does that mean that it's exactly a fist between?
Right.
No. Does that mean it's going to be wider on someone, narrower on someone else? And, as long as they're, so pick what it is that purpose and the reason of that, and then just adjust.
Yeah.
What needs to happen.
For footwork for me, I can go way far out with ballet position, but should I? No, probably not. But at the same time, because I am so mobile, if you say I have to be a fist width apart,
that does not feel good.
That's not going to be happy for me. That won't feel good.
I think we had this once in one of our sessions together, and I can't remember what it was, but you were always having to do it this way. And then I asked how it felt somewhere, and you said it feels really restricted. I can't remember what we were doing. And I said, well, try this. And you were like, oh, that's better.
Oh. I'm allowed to do that.
I can do that because it was not a happy place structurally for your body. Mm-hmm. But didn't change anything. It just gave you the freedom to be able to move in it.
To move better, feel better in that position and in that exercise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's we kind of talked about a couple of exercises where there's these rules, right?
Yeah.
That you're supposed to be in this position to start. Mm-hmm. And why would you have to do that if you're still doing the exercise?
Yeah. So one of the ones we were talking about before was long back stretch.
Long back stretch.
Yeah. Which one were we talking about? Long back stretch.
Long back stretch.
Because we talked about a lot of them. And so you were talking with somebody that was saying she was taught to force her feet flat, like
against the shoulder
super
rest.
flat
Like,
into
like
the
the
shoulder
heel
block.
really pressed almost under the shoulder rest, so her whole entire foot was against that shoulder rest.
Yeah. And you were watching her do the movement with that setup position.
Well, just her getting set up in it, she was like, I don't like this. It bothers. She had like knee issues. It's like bothers my knee. And also it gave her nowhere to move to push with her arms either.
Because she was already a little
Because she was already restricted.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, it's like just put as much of your foot as you can connect.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she was able to be there, not worry about her knee, move.
So then when you gave her that freedom to be able to not have the complete foot pressing on the block, did some of the foot move away from the block?
Yeah, her heels moved away from it. Yeah.
And so then that gave her the range to be able to actually do the exercise and do it more comfortably.
Yeah, and she could still push with her legs as she needed to, but not feel like she was just in this it's kind of like if you have, I compare it like if you're like trapped in like this, like if you're a 6-foot man and you're in this really tiny car and you're in the back seat and you're just like in this restricted little, and you just like, it almost takes our central nervous system into a panic.
Yeah.
Because we're just feeling icky things.
Yeah. Well, and you're feeling those old injuries flare up a little bit, or those aggravations. Like maybe you're not injured, but it's those old aggravations where it's like, well, but why?
Yeah, why?
Like, why do you want to do it that way? Well, you don't want to do it that way.
No.
So why force it?
And why force it? And I feel like it's like, so teaching to the body in front of you, yeah, we have choreography, but that doesn't mean that the setup has to be this perfect, amazing, like, this is how it is.
Yeah. For everybody, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Because even day to day, like our positions might change a bit. You know, like one day you might be able to do something where the next day it's just not quite right.
Right. It doesn't work the same.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, I have knee injuries and I was doing a workshop and it was the knee stretches, tiger stretches. And I always have struggled with knees off or the knee stretch because that's really putting load when you're low.
Yeah.
And I was told, well, you can't do it unless you're this far off, like an inch or two off. You can't do it.
That's not exercise unless you're doing it.
Unless you're doing it here. And I went to another workshop with a friend and they're like, well, show me where you want to go. And so I had my shape. It was just higher. And they're like, well, that's fine. Now go down and do it like they want you to do it. And when I did, my knee torqued out, all this thing. And so it's like, we need to look at someone's body and see what's happening and go, you know what? Maybe we need you to keep that rounded, but maybe come up a little.
Yeah. So it's still the same position. It's still the essence of the exercise.
Safer, and they can accomplish it.
Yeah. So they feel better about it, both physically that their body feels better in it, and they feel better because they're actually able to do it. There's a successful end.
Exactly. And they get stronger, and they're challenged, and it takes it into, you're just kind of guiding them through.
Yeah. And I think that kind of connects to what you were saying about, like, guiding the client, like, giving them that, like, that end point, like, giving them that point to get to.
Yep.
Without letting them figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
And, like, if we're like, okay, so this is where we want to go.
And this is how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
No.
And then I want you to do this, and then this, and then this, and then this. It's like, well, but what if their body's not going to go there today? So instead, okay, well, that's the end point. So start moving, and let's see. And then they start moving, and then we can guide them as we see what's needed.
Yeah. I think that's really, truly about teaching to the body in front of you is they know their body. It's kind of like when someone's hurt, and you show them something and they kind of go,
yeah,
I don't know.
Like they haven't even tried it, but you're like,
they're
how do you feel about this?
They're looking at that movement going, that doesn't look like it's going to feel good to me.
They can just tell.
They can tell.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. And it's like, they're going to move in different ways. It's like, think about when you're teaching like a group class. Everyone's teaser is different. The way they kind of get into it, the timing of it, everything is different. There's no like, feet have to be like this, do this, get here, because maybe that won't, maybe they have really long legs. Are they really going to get into that
same position.
Same position as someone with shorter legs.
Mm-hmm. No, it's going to be different.
Different.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we all have, maybe because of social media, I don't know, just we have all these images of that perfect picture of how each exercise is supposed to look. And you see those, like, perfect teasers. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's no reason when we're teaching somebody why we want to put them somewhere, first, that their body either can't do or isn't comfortable with. But there's no, like, supposed to, right? It's like,
right.
There's no, like...
It's kind of like a guide.
Yeah.
It's like a travel guide.
We're their travel guide.
We're their travel guide.
We're their travel guide on the journey
of Pilates.
We're going
to go on this journey. How we get to this point over here, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I think, and I like what you just said, because it leads into kind of, we don't want to force them. Like we said, we don't want to force their body or cue them in a way that forces them into something that's not a happy place. Mm-hmm. But I also, and that leads me to this, is like a lot of times when you teach your client and they're coming through and you just give them that freedom, like we're talking about, to move. And then you can even say to the client, you know, what are you feeling? What is going on today? What do you feel? Oh, I really feel like I'm super tight. Mm-hmm. And they kind of will get so into their body, they start to feel what maybe is not happening, or maybe what's feeling good or what's not, and that guides you again.
Yeah, because then they give you some feedback, and then you can help.
And you're
guide
teaching
them.
To that body, and what it needs.
Yeah. And I think the overall is just like not being super rigid in either the structure of what you think an exercise is supposed to look like or what your class plan is going to be with them.
Yeah.
Because things can change depending on how they come in that day, and how things like adapt and develop over the session. Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point, because, you know, you can have an idea because maybe you've trained the client for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then they slept funny, and they come in with a crick in their neck, or they come in with this happening. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're going a whole different route.
Yeah, you just never really know until you're there with them, and then they're the person in front of you, and how do you adapt to them?
Yeah.
And I was thinking the other day, like, that this doesn't mean, like, as the teacher that we should change ourselves. But, like, we're still authentic to ourselves and how we teach and what we believe and value. But we're there with them and adapting in the way that's appropriate to what that person needs that day and what we're seeing from them and hearing from them.
Yes. It's not like we're changing our personality as a teacher or changing our thought process or changing our values as a teacher.
Yeah.
But it is giving... I think you use that word really well, rigid. Because I feel like as a teacher, I feel like as a teacher, if you want to be a really in it with the client, you can't be rigid.
Yeah.
You have to kind of go with them.
Definitely.
And you can't really stick them in a box and say, this is how it's going to be. And I also don't think, like, teaching to the body in front of you, I don't think that's like telling someone what's wrong with them and saying, we need to fix this, so this is what's going to happen, and we're going to da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Because then we're also taking away some, what is it, autonomy?
Yeah.
We talked about for the client.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think that's important to keep that in the practice.
Well, and, like, self-efficacy and, like...
We're using big words today.
And, like, autonomy, like, those are very important things for people to feel successful in life in general. But then in our sessions with them, if we can help give them their own autonomy or allow them to know their own body, allow them to feel what they need, then they're just going to be more successful.
And more confident.
More confident in their movement. They're going to feel better. And then, like, they don't necessarily, quote, like, need us, but we help guide them.
Exactly.
But they can feel more confident in themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important. Like, I have a teacher training group that just started, and they watched one of my clients who... she's in it when she's in here, but I give her this freedom. We kind of figure things out. But I don't have to tell her anything. It's like coordination. She knows the spring. She knows the setup. A backstroke. She knows the spring. She knows the backstroke. Now, I'm not sitting there dictating, okay, make sure make sure this, make sure that. It's kind of like find your dead bug. And then she gets in her position. Okay, arms and legs, let's go. And then I just kind of guide her. but they were like, wow, she knew all the setup and all the this and this and this. It's like, because you've given them this freedom to like be in it and learn about themselves and learn about their body.
Really like figure out where they need to be.
Yeah. And so it just becomes this flow that they're going, and then they're kind of in it so much that they start to like wiggle around and go, and you're like, what's going on? Well, I feel like my shoulders like, and you just look like, okay.
When they start like self-adjusting,
which is good.
Yeah.
Because they're figuring out where they are, proprioception, where they are in space, what do they need to do, and that's really what we want them to do.
I mean, that's kind of the goal of teaching. Like when my clients start to self-adjust, they like adjust to something that I was about to say to them, I
love
start
that
saying
moment.
it, and they do. I go, oh, that's what I was going to say,
and they're like, oh,
yeah. And so they feel so good because they're really owning their practice.
Exactly.
And then we feel good because we're like, oh, I'm
learned,
teaching them, like they've.
Well, it's like that back bending 3 or climb a tree.
Yeah.
Every single person comes up and then adjusts. Because they go down, they're like, oh.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, let them do it. It's like, and then it may not be perfect, but it's adjusted where they are like, I know some things, I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the brilliant, I love that moment in teaching.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, we're doing a good job together.
Yeah. They're figuring it out. I'm guiding them. Things are working. Things are flowing. And I think that's probably what Joe Pilates' whole point was when he was like going through all the
he wanted you to be able to do it, like you said, to not need the teacher, to be able to do it on your own, figure things out. And I think that's it's not going to stop your client from coming.
Yeah. Well, and you want your client to want to be there, not like have to be there. So it's like they want the guidance and that like specialized corrections of what they need for that day. But you don't want them to be like, oh, I cannot move without you. It's like, what? How are you going to live your life?
How do you live? I'll just follow you around all day.
Yeah.
But I think it's true. It's like this whole teaching to the body in front of you, I think, needs to really take that step of like, what is this body in this moment today telling me? Because like you said, it'll be different tomorrow. It'll be different next week. So it's always, it could be, let's say, Joe. We'll use Joe. Joe came in on Monday and had that body, and then he comes in Friday, and you're like, ooh, what happened here? Like, why is he all like, what's going on? But it's the same person.
Needs different things. Yeah. And it really is just about that, being able to adapt to the situation at the time, adapt to that person, adapt to that day. And I think it's really important.
You just reminded me because, like, when you're a new teacher and you go through teacher training and you're taught, you're assessing, you're looking, you're trying to fix, you're doing da-da-da-da-da-da. And it can be overwhelming. But I think when you get in the mindset of teaching to the body in front of you and take that, yes, we're guiding them, like you said, but that just takes the whole pressure of, I got to find something wrong. I got to fix it. What's wrong? I can't find anything. So it's kind of like, let's just see how this body's moving. What does it need, or what's going really well?
Yeah.
And maybe I can go with that.
I like that.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's like, I do that with you a lot. Like today, I was like, everything's going pretty well, so let's go this route.
Everything looks aligned.
Back is good. Everything's happy.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes, right? And then sometimes they come in and it's like, oh my God.
Completely different. But I think if we sit there and go into a session with a client and just look at them and like, what can I find wrong? And I need to make sure they're like this, and this needs to happen, and this needs to happen. It's just not going to work. Well, it's more stressful. It's kind of very stressful. And it's stressful for the client and the teacher. It's kind of a more negative approach. I think that's what I think too. Yeah, if you're like, what can I find that they're doing wrong that I can cue? It's like that negative person. What can I find bad about today? Yeah. Instead of we're giving them the exercise we're going to do. We're like, okay, we're going to do this. Here's the setup. and then start moving, and then kind of just seeing, like, what do they need? And it's like,
what do they need?
What does it look like might help at that time? And it's not necessarily something they're doing wrong, but like how you say a lot that I like, oh, well, see if you can reach this a little more, or see if you can push here more, or, just giving a suggestion.
See what happens.
Yeah. See, and sometimes I'll ask a client, I'm like, see how this works. And then I'll say, better, worse, same. How does that feel?
How does that feel for you? Yeah. And you're not asking, where are you feeling this? Are your glutes working? Are your abs working? It's like, how's that feel?
Yeah, like, what did you notice that's different? Or how was that? And sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, I really noticed this now. And, and then they're moving through it, and it gives them the freedom of just, like, getting through that motion and seeing where the body is.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like, also, if you are so into that, we'll just say negative space of correcting in terms of it has to be this way, and this has to happen, and this has to happen. It's like it does prevent the client, I feel, from learning and getting their awareness of where they are and how their body is moving, how it's working, what they need to do. Like you said, when we say, can you reach that more? Can you push more? Can you bring that hip, like, whatever it is? How can we make that happen?
Yeah. Well, because then it's bringing the client's awareness to how they're moving right now. And then what you just said, oh, okay, so what am I doing now? And then can I reach that a little more? And
how
then
do I make that happen?
What do I have to do to get there?
Yeah.
And so they're really learning from their own experience along with our guidance.
Yeah. Because I feel like there's a lot of exercises like stomach massage where, do you really have to have them all the way in this teeny tiny, super tight ball where their knees hurt or their hips hurt or this or that? Why not start them out, get them to find their position, and how far can they come in? Yeah. How much into that can they come and then press out? And maybe it gets closer and closer. But it's like give them like a start of a success.
Yeah.
And then guide them as they come.
Totally. I mean, and maybe that the range that they have at that time is depending on what the exercise is. Maybe it's a smaller range, or maybe they start out farther to have more space. And over time they can do maybe a little bit more of a range. And then eventually they can like do this whole thing and they're like, oh, did you see? I just did that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like you've got to think you're teaching to the body in front of you. So let's take it. And oh my gosh, we could just keep going. But if you think about teaching to the body in front of you, and I told this to a teacher trainer, and I said, we're not teaching them to do teaser. We're teaching these movements, right, in their body, and how to get this, like, these concepts of movement. And because they're not going to go outside and then sit down on the sidewalk and do a teaser. Or, maybe they will show it at a party or something. But it's like you're so the be all end all of this, it has to look like this. Yeah. It's like, well, what are the concepts for the movement of this person's body? Yeah.
Because the end goal is not that pose.
No.
Right? A photo for that pose.
Exactly.
So it's not that it has to look that way. And it's not that it has to look a certain way to start and end, but it's a movement. And we're teaching them movement concepts and movement principles that are supposed to translate into their life and other activities.
Real world, yeah.
Yeah.
Into their pickleball or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just used that because I had a client today who played. Yeah, she played it all weekend long, and so she was very tight. But so what? The bottom line is, what do we think teaching to the body in front of us means?
Yeah. What do we actually mean by that?
And I think it's really letting that body be in a position, move, and we're just guiding them.
Yeah. And not forcing anybody anywhere.
Not forcing them with our cues, not forcing them with our hands, or forcing them with our words in terms of, oh, you have to be in this position.
Like our expectations.
Or what we want to happen.
Yeah, what we want them to look like.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I know sometimes when you're in a crowded studio, especially if you're a new teacher, you're kind of like, oh, they're thinking my client is horrible at this. But it's like, it doesn't matter what it looks like, but it's what is happening.
What's the movement quality? It's all about the quality, not what it looks like.
Not what it looks like.
And maybe some people think that if their client doesn't look a certain way, that they're not a good teacher because they can't get their client there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if we can just take ourselves out of it and be like, what does this person need from me? How can I teach them?
Exactly.
And that's really what it is.
Yeah. And I think that was a good, and we were talking about this because I had a new student. This was a long time ago. So if any of my new students or teacher trainers are listening, it's not them. But it was way back, probably 6-7 years ago. And I had my client who was, I don't know, 5'9", 5'11", very tall, big boned, beautiful woman. And she got into her ball. But because she was so just kind of broad, her ball was wider and her knees were out wider. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't this tight little teeny ball, right? But she rolled, got back. I mean, she was just rolling away, finding her balance point. And then the student was like, well, shouldn't her ball be tighter?
Yeah.
It didn't matter where her ball was.
Like, she's doing it.
She rolled it. Yeah.
She's doing it
did the
successfully.
exercise, and she did it successfully. And I think we need to step away from that has to look like this.
Yeah. Totally.
And totally. Yeah. Anyway, that's our rant for the day. But yeah, teach to the body in front of you and then really understand what that means.
What that actually means. Mm-hmm. Putting those expectations to the side.
Yeah. Kind of going in going, what's going to happen?
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see
where we can go today.
So, who's our sponsor?
We are our sponsor today.
Two Pilates Chicks.
Two Pilates Chicks, our upcoming workshop.
We have a workshop set for, oh my gosh,
for May 18th. And it kind of taps into what we're talking about here in some aspects, and cueing and how to work with the person. Mm-hmm.
Kind of those outdated cues and how to like really apply cues in terms of like kind of what we were just talking.
Yeah, of what someone actually needs and the anatomical necessities.
Yeah, and I think we also talk a little bit in the workshop about kind of the differences between teaching Pilates and our cueing and being a physical therapist and the whole anatomy aspect of things.
Yeah, how cues can be different. And
it'll be fun. And it's for CECs, for those that need them.
And we're very excited. And you can follow us on Instagram. At Two Pilates Chicks.
Yay!
And we'll have more constant updates from there.
On that, yeah. But you can go on our website. We actually already have the workshop up. Mm-hmm. You can book your spot. We're kind of limiting it a little bit to make sure everyone kind of gets what they want. But there's plenty of room. Come to LA. If you're in LA, just come here.
Come to the studio.
But that was it. That was fun.
Yeah.
I like that. So that's it. Season 5, episode 2. We're done.
We'll talk to you soon.
Oh, we didn't even talk. I guess our theme music will come in and out. We didn't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there's our theme music. Bye.
Bye.